Good morning, Internet. Yashoda here with West Coast Yoga. Today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st Canto, Chapter 1, Text 19, which reads as follows. Vayang tuna vitripyama uttama shloka vikrame yachrin vatang rasagyanam svadu svadu pade pade. Translation. We never tire of hearing the transcendental pastimes of the personality of Godhead, who is glorified by hymns and prayers. Those who enjoy association with him relish hearing of his pastimes at every moment. I'll read a few sentences of Prabhupada's purport for good measure. Srila Prabhupada's purport. There is a great difference between mundane stories, fiction, or history, and the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. The histories of the whole universe contain references to the pastimes of the incarnations of the Lord. The Ramayana, Mahabharata, and the Puranas are histories of bygone ages recorded in connection with the pastimes of the incarnations of the Lord, and therefore remain fresh even after repeated readings. For example, anyone may read Bhagavad Gita or the Srimad Bhagavatam repeatedly throughout his whole life, and yet find in them new light of information. What Srila Prabhupada is explaining in this verse is that a serious student in Krishna consciousness has an ever-increasing appetite to serve the Lord and to inquire about the Lord's confidential features. It's not that we're simply satisfied with a preliminary understanding, but as the relationship matures more and more, we want to inquire more and more about the Lord's qualities, his pastimes, his entourage, his devotees. In fact, in chapter 10 of Bhagavad Gita, after Arjuna surrendered to the Lord in full knowledge, he began to inquire, "My Lord, please tell me, how can I realize you through this material creation, because I am, after all, still in the material world?" And so the Lord explained how he can be seen in matter. He said, "I am the light of the sun and the moon. I am the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. I am the sound in ether. I am the ability in man." He gave so many different ideas so Arjuna could always stay in touch. Similarly, in chapter 12, Krishna is introducing a very broad program of Krishna consciousness because, after all, we are not all on the same platform. We don't all have the same eligibility. In the ideal stage, the devotee is able to constantly meditate upon the Lord. Man mana bhava mad bhakto madhyajimam namaskuru. Krishna says, just always think of me. Place me in your heart and meditate upon me. But unfortunately, we are, after all, in touch with the modes of nature. We have previous karma that we're held accountable for, and we have future desires that are still fructifying. So Krishna gives a broad program for the living entity. If we cannot always think of him, then Krishna says, just follow the regulative program of life, the regulative principles, and worship me. And this is more or less the status of the devotees living in a temple. Those who live in a temple have to rise early in the morning. And sometimes we think, oh my God, it's so early, why do I have to get up? But that is the regulative path. Even the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan chanted a fixed number of rounds. They were also going to take darshan of the deity. They also followed a regulative path. Similarly, by following in these footsteps, we can gradually come to the platform of always thinking of the Lord. But still, not everyone is on that level. Therefore, Krishna says, if you can't follow the regulative program, if you have trouble with these, let's say, sinful activities, then you can work for me, and you can dedicate the results of your natural work in my service. Someone has to cultivate the flowers in Krishna's garden. Someone has to go on the street and distribute literature or perform public chanting. Someone has to build a temple. In this way, everyone has a natural proclivity of work, and if we engage our natural proclivity in Krishna's service, we'll eventually come to the platform where we can follow the regulative principles. And by following the regulative principles, we'll one day come to the level that we can always think of Krishna. And still, some devotees have a hard time working for the Lord. Maybe they're born in a Muslim country, or a Buddhist country, or a Christian country, and the public protests, or the parents take down the altar, or the government demolishes the temple. Krishna says, if you can't directly worship me, then you should cultivate knowledge and renunciation. Because through the culture of knowledge, you become naturally detached from the bodily concept of life, and you will gradually come into good association. Through good association, we can learn to worship the Lord. By worshiping the Lord, we come to be able to follow the regulative principles. And by following the regulative principles, one day, we can constantly think of Krishna. Thank you very much for your kind attention. See you next time for class. Hare Krishna.